Hello and welcome to News Across Nigeria. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Coming up on the program today, the UNHCR reacts to the deadly explosion in Damboa town in Borno State. Some victims of previous attacks in Borno State get new homes, courtesy the state government, and businessman Aliko Dangote. And the Enugu State government builds 5 new fire stations in strategic locations across the state. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's begin in the northeastern part of the country, where more condemnation continues to trail the deadly explosion in Damboa town in Borno State, where no fewer than 21 persons were killed on Saturday night. The latest is coming from the United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mirta Collard, and he's asking the federal government to step up protection of the country's citizens in troubled areas. The UNHCR says civilians consistently bear the brunt of the conflict in the northeast, and more than 200 women, children and men have now been killed in indiscriminate attacks since the beginning of the year. He adds that the United Nations and the international community of the Red Cross airlifted by helicopter 11 of the critically wounded from Damboa to Maiduguri to facilitate emergency medical treatment in support of the state authorities. Damboa last witnessed an attack by a non-state armed group in July 2016, and the town was also taken over by a non-state armed group in mid-2014 and subsequently recaptured by the Nigerian military a few months later. Cooperation amongst countries of the Lake Chad Basin and their allies is needed to sustain peace in the area. This is coming from Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Mansur Danali, who believes no meaningful development can be attained if countries located within the region work in isolation. It formed part of his address at the 4th Director of Defense Intelligence of the Lake Chad Basin Conference. Mr. Danali, who spoke through the Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olonishakin, says a cooperative approach to intelligence gathering and sharing will bring about positive change.
Evidently, the role of intelligence in restoring peace in the Lake Chad region cannot be overemphasized. This feat geared towards ensuring security for meaningful development cannot be attained by a single country. As such, there will be the need for exchange of information, intelligence, and close cooperation between affected countries, sub-regional and regional organizations. To this end, I am optimistic that with the pedigree and competence of the military officers present here today and our international partners, the product of this conference will suggest practical ways to tackling the dynamics of insecurity in the region. Particularly, I strongly believe that a cooperative approach would make enduring and positive change in security and peace possible in the Lake Chad region to ensure meaningful development. To achieve this, the security agencies of the Lake Chad Basin countries have often garnered efforts to fight extremism. Nevertheless, more needs to be done to help build our capacity for more efficient output.
Meanwhile, more than 2,000 internally displaced persons from Guzamala local government area of Borno State seeking shelter at the Bakassi camp in Maiduguri are expected to return to their ancestral homes today. The IDPs are returning following an assurance from the military that their safety is guaranteed. Many of them deserted their town, which is 125 kilometers from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, in the wake of deadly attacks by Boko Haram insurgents. But army authorities have given them an assurance of safety as they return home. Staying with stories centered around that area and the welfare of people who are victims of the insurgency, no fewer than 200 widows have received allocation from the 200 housing units jointly built by the Borno State government and the Nigerian businessman Aliko Dangote. the group had donated 2 billion naira in support of Borno State's rebuilding project, while the state government complemented it by covering other expenses. The project is part of the Borno State government's plan to resettle internally displaced persons.
With the liberation of territories captured by Boko Haram in Borno State by the Nigerian army, the state government had commenced rebuilding of towns destroyed by the insurgents. The plan is to relocate the affected population to areas considered safe to enable them start up life again. Nigerian philanthropist and chairman of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, a consistent donor to the IDPs, had keyed into the resettlement vision of the state government by making a generous donation of 2 billion naira. Building materials worth half the donation is what has helped the construction of the Dangote village situated in the Lori town in Kunduga local government area. He salutes the governor's courage in executing capital projects despite the Boko Haram crisis.
It is against this backdrop and with consultations between the Dangote Foundation and the state government that we provided building materials worth 1 billion naira to undertake the construction of what we are commissioning here today.
Governor Kashim Shettima says the Dangote Foundation is the biggest benefactor of the state, overwhelmed by the humanitarian situation.
In line with the principal objective of touching the lives of those in absolute need, we have ensured that the 200 resettlement houses in this modern village are allocated to persons who are direct victims of the Boko Haram insurgency.
Some of the benefiting widows had been living from hand to mouth before this intervention came.
We escaped from our hometown and didn't have anything when we came out. They burnt everything we had. Now we're in a rented house and I am yet to pay because I don't have any money.
The state government is not only giving them accommodation, it is also giving them startup livelihood kits to help them attain financial independence.
In order to support the livelihood of the beneficiaries, each of the 200 housing units were equipped with 250 square meters drip irrigation kit, modern poultry facilities, and modern fish farming farm.
Out of the 21,000 people displaced from Bama local government area of the state, 3,000 have already been relocated to their homes, rebuilt by the state government.
The British High Commission to Nigeria has described the city of Kano in northwest Nigeria as one of the most investment-friendly states in the country. State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje and the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, says they are working to strengthen the trade relations with other countries through investment. They were speaking at the second annual Kano Cultural Night.
Firing of main guns herald the arrival of the state governor Abdullahi Ganduje, the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, diplomats and tourists, including the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Paul Arkwright. It is the second annual cultural festival marking this year's Eid celebrations, an event initiated by the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, and supported by the state government. The idea, according to Governor Ganduje, is to revive, sustain, and maintain the lost cultural heritage of the state. The aim is to further strengthen peaceful coexistence among various ethnic groups across the country and neighboring nations in such a way as to attract investors all over the world.
On our part as a government, first of all, we have to work very hard and provide an enabling environment so that visitors will be attracted, visitors will feel safe, to provide a conducive environment so that the blueprint we have, we get the desired result.
As a center of commerce, the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, believes that culture can be used to improve on the economy, especially by looking at the historical background of the commercial city of Kano.
Next time, you should plan when coming to Kano to spend 3 or 4 days, because there's much more to see.
Former Governor of Abia State, Uzo Kalu, the British Commissioner to Nigeria, representative of the United Nations, UNICEF, and members of Kano business community, Sudanese community in Kano, and several other countries were presented with Kano's symbol of unity.
To all the people of Kano State on this wonderful occasion, thank you again for the very kind invitation. Thank you.
Me as an entrepreneur see culture as a means of money making, because with this thing you have exhibited here, it costs a lot of money to do this.
As each celebrations continues, it is expected that investment partners would use the opportunity to discuss trade and investments with the governments of Kano State. Idris Jubrin, Channels Television News.
Coming up on News Across Nigeria, Enugu State government builds 5 new fire stations in strategic locations across the state. Please join us again.